imagine as arrangers and music fans everywhere. Today, we're going to talk about articulations. And this is good for players as well, so that you understand what all these things are. First off, I want to just say, as a player, I didn't really like seeing articulations. I like to leave that up to the players. Usually the arrangers don't really know. Some arrangers who were players will articulate parts intelligently, but those arrangers that are piano players usually get it wrong, and it's really annoying. Also, really good players, top-level players, it's nice when you leave them enough space to create their own articulations, longs and shorts, everything. I know that certain arrangers who write books and who teach classes and stuff say, oh, you got to put an articulation on every note. Oh man, I hated seeing that as a player. It's like, oh, now I just want to ignore all this stuff. Duke Ellington never wrote any articulations at all, and didn't write any dynamics at all. He left that all up to the players, but of course they played every day, and they had rehearsal, so all that stuff gets worked out. But certain things we just know as players. For instance, quarter notes are short in a swing situation. In a ballad situation, no. Quarter notes may be long when you're playing a ballad. Very often they're going to be long. Now figure like, in a ballad, that makes sense that they're going to be long, those quarter notes. In a swing situation, maybe not. Yeah, probably they're going to be long. Now, if you want them to be played legato, they could be slurred, like that in a swing situation that would be unusual. So if it's something the players wouldn't know and it's going to be unusual, but that's what you really want, then write it with a slur over it. Or if you want them articulated, you could have long marks over them. Or I want to make sure that they're staccato. You know, for some reason, maybe you had some long marks in or slurs just before that, and it would be unclear, and you want them short. But maybe you want them accented. Now, we use these cap accents or TP accents. I don't know what to call them, but caret accents. Those mean accented and short. Okay. If you want them long and accented, then you use the sideways. Okay. Or say you want a figure. Sometimes we can articulate long, short, long, short. That sometimes works too. In my music, a lot of times I'll just write chord notes, and they're generally short, but occasionally they might also sound good with some of the notes long, and so the lead players in the lead trumpet player or the lead alto player very often will ask me. They'll either make a decision and try it one way, and then I can veto it or agree with it, or they'll just ask me, do you want that long or short over there? And I'm the arranger and I'm the conductor, and so it's up to me. That's okay. It takes a minute at rehearsal to do that. Sometimes you're undecided. It could go either way. You want the part to be playable by the people that are going to play it. It should be comfortable to them. That's the ideal. You don't want to write music that's great, but isn't going to get played great. All right? The music on the paper, that's not the music. The music that you hear, that's the music. So I'm always interested in making the players comfortable, and that they should be playing their personalities. And I try to write music that brings out the best of the players, makes them sound as good as they can sound, and will inspire them to be great. Let's look at a 4-bar figure. If I was writing an arrangement, I would not put in any articulations or any dynamics on this at all. I would assume that the players would know. Any experienced player, even very little experience, even high school players should know this, but certainly professionals would know how to play this without any articulation. Here it is. to put a little more accent on it. I'll get that last bar again. So I put a little accent on that last note. Why? Because it's followed by a rest. In swing music and in jazz in general, eighth notes are played long, unless they're followed by a rest. And then they're played short, probably with a bit of an accent. Now, in this figure that I wrote out, so that and of 2 in the second bar, that second G there, it's followed by a rest, and it's really not accented. There's more accent on the first note. Idiomatically, we would put more accent. So I put an accent on the first note of the bar and the last note of the bar. Why the last note? The last note of the bar is it's an accent on beat 4 and it's tied over. That's called a scrunch. In New Orleans music, they call that big 4. In the swing era, they call it scrunch. Scrunch on the 4th beat, scrunch. Okay, so we always put an accent on scrunch. And the first beat in bar 2, we put an accent. But that's idiomatic. Now, something also that we do dynamic in terms of dynamics is when the line ascends, we crescendo, and when the line descends, we diminuendo. So if we're playing so I'm going to ascend. I have to start here with the dynamics. I'm putting an accent on the end of 2 there, on the top note of the phrase. So the top notes of phrases we want to emphasize, and the lower notes we want to ghost them. So see here, I'm going to accent that top note, and then I'm getting softer as I go down the line, and then I ghost that low D. I hardly touch it at all. That's the way you want. It's easier for me to sing it than I'm playing on the piano, because I'm not really a piano player. I'm sort of a piano player, but the way I sing it is the way I hear it in my head. And if I were playing the trumpet back in my trumpet playing days, that's the way I would play it. To write in all those slurs, yeah, it could be slurred. Those all could be slurred, but I might not play it that way. There's another way to phrase it. A lot of players will do this. They'll slur from the and to the beat. So I wrote that out here. So it would, and so if you obey those slurs, it'll also sound like jazz. That's not really what I would do, but a lot of guys that I've worked with, that's saxophone player friends of mine, they phrase like that. And certain phrases, sometimes I'll do that, boo-doo-doo-doo. We used to call that Dizzy Gillespie. So sometimes, and if I want that, do-do, boo-boo-boo-boo, a figure like that, I would write that out with the slurs and maybe put accent on do-do-do-do, to get that specific kind of thing. In our band, there was a figure when we did the Nutcracker, and Jerome Richardson was the lead alto player. And he said, well, how do you want that figure? Do. And I said, oh, well, what are my choices? And he said, well, we could do Dizzy Gillespie. And so from then on, it was always known as Dizzy Gillespie. But normally, when I'm playing like a bebop line like this, I would doodle tongue it. That's, if you listen to Clark Terry, Clifford Brown, players like that, they use doodle tonguing. And it's a smooth way of playing the line, but it articulates every note. Whereas when you slur it, like Dizzy, he's coming out of the swing era, you know, he's first bebopper, but he was a swing era player first, and so he slurs a lot of his stuff. But when you get to Fats Navarro, it's more articulated. Clifford Brown, more articulated. Clark Terry, more articulated. And so they use doodle tonguing, which I found very useful. How much of this information are you going to give the player? As little as you have to. Don't tell them what they already know. Only give them the information that they don't know. If you want to put a long and a short and an accent and dynamics on every note, the part becomes unreadable. You wind up getting none of that. The players will just ignore everything. But if you have a chart and it's got one accent in it, you know the player is going to take you seriously, and that's my advice. Thanks for watching this episode of Writing for Big Men. If you like this lesson, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And check out the other lessons on my channel. If you want to know more, there's tons of information in my books, Creative Jazz Composing and Arranging, Volume 1 and 2, which you can find on my website in the description below. The books have plenty of examples and techniques, and you can download the scores to follow along. Thanks for watching, and happy arranging.